We are recording.
Excellent.
All right. So we were just chatting. The assignment looks like, Rob, do you have all the Google Docs?
I do, and I've got I'll start pulling all of them. I've got the design journal template open in front of me, and
Yeah,
I'll get
that
the
looks
other
like
ones
it's our
pulled up here in a
final
sec.
project. We submit that at the
Sure.
very end.
Okay.
The assignment for today looks
Mhm.
like we are to pick a topic.
Okay.
And the topics, I think, were found on the Grand Challenges
Okay.
page in the content. So, I mean, what are you guys thinking about this? I look at it in the aspect of being able to build a prototype.
Yeah. So that was my initial question, because some of those things on there are very cool and incredibly lofty. Like I don't know how many of us have experience with nuclear engineering, but I feel like some of the fusion stuff might be a little bit.
I know a guy.
You know a guy?
I know
Oh,
a guy.
perfect. All right. Well, then, with that being said, I think everything's on the table. So, are there any of them that like speak particularly to your guys' interest? I'm particularly interested in robotics and automation and artificial intelligence, but a lot of this stuff is, I guess, tangentially related to either things that I'm interested in or things that I'm going to be studying. So I think that's a good place to start. Is there anything that like speaks to any of you guys, folks, rather?
I kind of want to stay away from the reverse engineer the brain.
Yeah, that was one of the lofty ones,
Yeah.
for sure.
I don't
I
really
think
want
that it's fascinating, but yeah, I agree. We should probably stick away from that one. Are there any other ones that either of you think that we should for sure steer clear from? Because we could at least start eliminating some of them off of the list.
I'll go to Google Docs. So you guys want to stay away from the brain. I deleted that one.
Okay. Do either of you, I guess, all right. So in terms of the confines of what we're talking about now, this is going to be a decision for not only this assignment, but also coming assignments and coming projects, correct?
It's like, yeah, it's like the rest of the semester.
Correct. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. So that being said, ultimately we are going to have to be prototyping something in relation to whatever we're developing here, right? Is that my understanding of things? Okay.
Yeah, like full scale, I think.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting as well. So I guess another place would be to start is, do any of you guys have interest or access to any virtual reality stuff like Oculus or any VR headsets or anything like that? And
my dad has an Oculus.
Okay. I also have an Oculus. Drake, what about you?
I do not. I don't have any.
Okay. I figured that would be a lofty one, but I figured if we didn't all have access to some sort of VR headset, we should probably steer clear of doing anything with VR. Just because I would hate for somebody to have to go out and either buy an Oculus or something for this, because I feel like that's a huge purchase, a huge ask just to be part of a project. I guess you also wouldn't necessarily need to have it, but it would be nice to be able to test the things that you're prototyping for VR.
I mean, it does say like nuclear terror probably is one that I don't want to mess with.
Yeah, I get enough dread from the internet on a regular basis, and I would hate to actually like spend more time actually studying it.
Yeah.
Carbon capture methods, I'm kind of intrigued by. I feel like that's not necessarily one that, like, I think that there are different varying ranges of capture, like potential carbon capture prototypes that might be easily or more easily designed. Let's see.
I know that carbon capture, like I've heard a few things about the main goal is to like have like skyscrapers that are able to pull it out of the air and stuff like that.
Sure, like yeah, like effectively like just having carbon scrubbers, and even if it's not
Yeah.
necessarily on like giant skyscraper, like that's a very like maximal aspect of carbon capture design. You could do something also like much smaller scale, like basically having carbon capture things in households where you could put them in alongside like your HVAC systems and stuff.
That's true.
It is really fascinating, and it's something that I think that might actually be like within the realms of like we three could prototype something of that. Whereas I look like some of these things like provide energy from fusion. I don't know how many of you guys really want to try and
No.
prototype something regarding fusion energy, but that's
I mean, I mess with fusion in my spare time.
yeah, nice.
So fusion's off the table. Got it.
Yeah, I think fusion's off the table. Clean water also seems like one that is not only beneficial, but seems like it has multiple avenues of trying to tackle the problem, and also avenues that would be within reasonable reach, I think, for 3 prototyping students in Tech 120.
Yeah, clean water seems like an easy way out, I think.
Mm-hmm.
My only problem with the clean water is, like the amount of things that are already out there. Like,
yeah,
you have like how many different brands of straws that you can drink through, like how many different things where you can pour a dirty water into a container and it drains out for clean water. Like,
absolutely, it is a very saturated market.
just like that's the same thing with the solar energy thing, I think.
yeah.
I mean, yeah. Now, while I would agree that I think both of those or some of those markets might be very saturated with different kinds of products, I would also then argue on the other side that even though that there is a wide avenue of products in the market right now, like Life straws or like some of those powders that you can like filter out all of the silt and shit from stuff from like bags of water that you just like fill up from rivers and such. I think that it might also help potentially, like you were talking about, using like carbon capture and skyscraper style designs, kind of thinking forward a little bit. I am a person that is very conscious about climate and potential climate disasters that could come basically in the coming decade and such. I think that there are a lot of avenues that we could probably like do some like predictive study and kind of project and see what kind of water crises could or might not necessarily be impending right now, but or crises that we are dealing with right now, but rather what happens whenever massive urban areas have water supply line failures, not necessarily just in like the actual physical infrastructure of it, but what happens if water treatment plants go down and we have these in multiple urbanized areas. We already see problems with this in like Jacksonville or Jackson, Mississippi, and like Flint, Michigan and stuff. If this is a problem that continues to trend across different cities and stuff, I could see where that could be a huge problem. And it's not something that a Life straw might necessarily be able to save or solve the problem, because you would need a Life straw for literally every person in the city, man, woman, child, and other persons. See what I'm saying? So like it's, while it is a market that is saturated, I think that there are potential problems that could arise that might be worth addressing.
I mean, like,
That said, I'm also not sold on clean water. Or like
well,
us.
with that Mississippi and the Flint, I mean, that's a
Mhm.
infrastructure problem too.
Sure. And infrastructure,
big.
they do have a thing on here for that. And I think that might be worth looking into as well.
I mean, so you can like maybe have that like providing clean water. I mean, I don't know about prototyping if they would, I mean,
Mhm.
go underneath technically prototyping, but like providing like standards. Well, I guarantee you they already have standards, but like some sort
Sure.
of whatever to make sure they're actually keeping updated with what is actually needed rather than letting it waste away and then, oh crap, we don't have any clean water left.
Sure. And I think that that is interesting. I think coming at that or potentially other things from an infrastructure angle is potentially a good idea. Cheryl, did you have any thoughts on anything that seemed interesting or anything that we wanted to weigh in on regarding any of these so far?
I mean, like engineer better medicines.
Hmm.
I mean, that could be something just,
There are a lot of things that could be involved in
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that'd be better medicines. It's not,
that.
not just research, but it's about diagnosing. I'm going more of like the diagnosing part of it.
Okay. So are you, so specifically the diagnosing part of it? Okay. I like this. I think that, would you be interested more in the engineering better medicines? Because I feel like engineering better medicines, um, generally speaking, I guess, unless we're being more like trying to be more proactive about treatment, which I think is a good thing. I feel like engineering better medicines, to my mind, comes with the context of potentially like doing things after the fact, right? You get medicine at the very least in an American sense is very much like you don't go to the doctor or unless it's a regular checkup or unless you've done something and you're hurting or you're sick or something like that. Medicine is applied after the fact. I also see something here for health informatics, and I don't know that seems more like data acquisition, and I would generally see that as the preventative sort of medicinal information, like the preventative measures. But so I guess my question here would be, do either one of does that make sense? Firstly, would you rather go either one of those, or do either of you have different understandings or interpretations of engineering better medicines or advanced health informatics?
I mean, for me, I mean, I'm still trying to dwindle this list down.
Sure.
So I would say we probably don't want cyberspace because we haven't mentioned that at all.
Sure.
Correct.
And I'd rather not deal with that.
Yeah.
That sounds
And the
like a
advanced
lot of
personalized learning, we haven't mentioned that at all either. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Unless you guys want to talk about that one.
That one I could be willing to keep in the mix. I think I teach kindergarten through sixth grade computer sciences, and I think that there are a lot of different avenues that might be worth exploring, and that we could easily prototype, and I might even be able to do a little bit of field testing with said prototypes. So I think that might be one that's like at least keeping on the docket to discuss further.
Okay. Solar energy off the table.
I don't have strong feelings one way or the other. We should probably do it, but don't, we as in like collectively in society, solar energy seems like a good way to get energy, but I don't know what I have to add towards making a prototype for anything with making solar energy economical.
Yeah, there's some pretty big minds on that one, and that's I feel like that's another out there one. Like,
Yeah, or at the very least, like I feel like there are potentially like cost thresholds for aspiring students to get solar engineering parts or solar energy parts rather, panels and electrical grids, batteries and such.
yeah. That one prototyping would be the hard part.
Yeah, I think so as well. Sorry, continue.
No, you go.
I was going to say, so I like either of the health avenues right now, either medicines or informatics. I like the infrastructure avenue, and I'm potentially interested in the advanced personal learning avenues as well. I think those are the ones that I'm most intrigued by so far. I'm not necessarily sold on designing prototypes for them, but I'm intrigued by them.
So that's more of a system that you'd be prototyping, correct, for the advanced personalized learning?
I think so. I think that there are possibly other avenues that we might be able to go about that, but you could do something systemic. You could do something that is potentially just like an elongated lesson plan, or let's see, given the diversity, let's see here, in which instruction is tailored to a student's individual needs.
I mean, it's kind of already though.
Well, expand on that for me.
Well, I mean, the teachers have to figure out how each student needs to learn, and they have to kind of
Sure,
personalize it.
That. However, I would also argue that since we are our school systems are rooted in a basis of standardized testing, right? And so as such, it's less about ensuring that these students, less about student engagement and student-led learning, and more about we have to teach them X material by X date so that they can do X test, right? Or at least that's been my limited experience with it.
That was my experience all throughout school. I mean, it's literally just teacher just gives you whatever, not actually teaching you, but gives you certain things that you have to know just to pass the I-STEP whenever I was in school, or the SAT. Or I know sophomore year I had to take it was an I-STEP just to even be able to graduate. It's just learning that so you can graduate, and then after you get that done, it's, if you want to, you can just coast along.
Sure. Yeah, I've had what I would consider a very similar experience. And I feel like there are better ways to teach as a teacher. I think that there are potentially other avenues that we could explore with student-led learning, and teaching things, obviously, like within the course that you're trying to teach, but following more of the interests of the students, because that student involvement, student engagement is really going to be positively impacted if they are invested personally in what they want to learn, right? I can't imagine how many students that I've either taught or that I hope that I haven't taught and they felt like this, but like how many classes that I went through where I felt like I could sleep through the class, go home and read the book, and as long as I had the material test day, it didn't matter necessarily what I did, and I can't like it didn't necessarily matter what I did with that material as long as I was able to present it during that test specifically. And after the fact, I could just as easily forget all of the material because it was no longer pertinent. And I don't think that's a good way to learn, and I don't think that's a good way to teach. Right? We should be, even if we're not necessarily worried about the information within the subjects themselves. I think that we should be teaching skills on basically how to learn. And how you do that is by getting people interested and getting them to push forward and want to learn, right? If you want to learn, you're going to be able to store that information easier, recall it better. You'll have a better, more positive experience whenever you're actually in the classroom and whenever you're learning things. And as such, that stuff will generally stick better, even if it's not necessarily the subject material itself, but you'll at least have a better context and grasp of, I guess, your personalized learning experience. I feel like that was a whole lot. Does anybody else want to talk about anything else or continue on this and add anything?
I mean, it does seem interesting, but I would wonder how we would develop a prototype for that. Because I mean, I think teaching the kids and getting them involved,
Sure.
especially with all the social media and internet and everything, it's making them not get involved in stuff.
I don't think that's, I think those are factors in it, but I don't think those are necessarily leading factors in it. And I guess that would be just my observation on it though. And I think that in regards to prototyping, I agree that I think that it might be hard to prototype something. I guess my next question would be, and I haven't glimpsed probably as far ahead into this as I should have. What exactly are like the parameters of our prototype? Does it need to be something like mechanical by definition?
It just has to be testable.
So I mean, so we could prototype, if we're just throwing ideas out here on like how we could possibly do this if this was a thing that we were interested in. We could prototype different kinds of I mean, I guess we could try and prototype like a student-led classroom and what that would actually look like. What would be material that would help prepare students and teachers both for a student-led classroom, and we could even narrow it down to a specific subject to kind of make it easier for us to work within a smaller sandbox, unless we wanted to make something that might be a little bit more amorphous. I think that you could prototype either types of like lesson plans or kind of like prototype the curriculum, or like a curriculum for the teacher, or get basically like the sandbox that they would need to kind of play around in a student-led classroom.